Thanks so much. So I'm excited to jump into it, James, and especially because for those that aren't familiar with Bynder, which you likely it might not be, we're a digital asset management platform, and so it's very timely or very relevant because a lot of our customers are having this exact conversation, building a content factory, building an in-house practice. Not to say that they're doing away with agencies, but they're changing the way that they work with agencies, and that's usually part of why they bring on Bynder, but not only just us. It's a whole sort of technology consideration, and we're just one of them. But that is in order to do it well, I would argue you need to create, manage, and distribute your assets efficiently. So again, we're hearing a lot of that from our customers and consumer brands, and so I think the natural place to start, James, is where Lego is at in 2021 in terms of its overall in-house practice and structure, and then maybe we'll talk a little bit about the global versus local nature of that team.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all trying to figure out a little bit of not trying to figure out, but trying to live into what we want to be when we grow up, right? And I say that by saying, I think we were ahead of the curve in terms of establishing an internal creative agency. I believe it's about 6 or 7 years old, maybe 6 years old. And I am 2 years into that. So I'm a little late in the journey, but I can say we've greatly evolved what we see the vision for our internal creative agency. And I say that in that, we have a hub, a global and hub sort of regional setup, where our global counterparts work very closely with our product marketing development teams and build out the toolboxes and the communication strategies on behalf of our global counterparts. And we, in the hubs within the regions, are there to support, bringing that vision to life, and that could be in the form of adaptation, creative adaptation, or that could be in the form of origination as well. It sort of depends on a number of things. Like most global brands, global can only solve so much of the marketing problem, and in some cases, we are being asked to solve, more specific regional problems or regional business objectives. I think the journey that we're on right now is building out the right skills and the right capacity in order to deliver on the sort of our CMO's vision, right? And our CMO's vision is to build the greatest agency in the world. No small feat. That we'll just snap our hands and make it happen. But by doing that, I think there are realistic expectations that we've got to do, which is deliver on the creative production needs, right? Which are predominantly driven by our media partners or our media partnerships, and those are very sort of tactical, but very, very important to the business and to the region needs. But then especially for a brand like Lego, we really believe in the power of proactive thinking, which shouldn't be too surprising. And by that, I mean, we really want to have the space and capacity and the skill sets and the creative partners as well to build out what being the creative agency could be. And that is not delivering on just tactical asks. That is proactively identifying creative opportunities or audience insights that inform a creative opportunity. So having the space in order to do that. And that's what we are feverishly working towards.
Awesome. Do you have a good recent example or example from the past of that proactive origination?
I can speak to it. This happened and originated out of our EMEA agency. And the ones that I can speak about that we're working on hands-on, I probably can't speak about. So I'll speak about something that's already happened.
It's already out there in
yes.
the public eye. Yeah.
Yeah. So LegoCon was the perfect example of that. And that was, based off proactive ideation that we wanted to create sort of a celebration of our brand, in the absence of all these other cons that weren't happening. Comic-Con, whatever it may be, or we're being forced digitally. So we wanted to try and understand and test and create an opportunity for kids and parents to celebrate Lego over a given day, right? And that was a purely proactive opportunity that was identified, sold in internally all the way up and down the organization, and pulled together mostly internally, across digital channels. So it was that's the sort of space that we aspire to get into, identifying those opportunities that aren't necessarily tied to a product launch, that aren't tied to necessarily a brand campaign, but do solve a business need.
Awesome. And this journey that Lego is on, can you speak to the extent to which it's about adding more people? You referenced the skills versus building skills versus, they say change happens via people, process, or technology. So curious, your mix, how you see it.
Yeah, I mean, I think process is definitely a big one. Lego is a manufacturing company at heart. I like to say that. I remember visiting a factory, and they reminded us that manufacturing takes up like 80% of our staff, I believe. That was a few years ago, so I don't know if that's still accurate. But we are a manufacturing company, and our creative development process follows that manufacturing process. That has evolved over time. So I think process is very important, but I would say it's less so about people and hiring. I will say that Lego is based in Enfield, Connecticut, which is not the hub of any universe. And I think it's very much about partnerships. And by that, I mean, it's not about bringing, hiring in the talent or the skills that you might need. We have found, and we are continuing to find that, partnering with, external partners from a creative standpoint has been wildly successful. And that, can be, that model of bringing in the right people with the right background for the right project or the right need. And that, in a very non-client external agency relationship and a true creative partnership, right? So what does it look like by bringing in an ACD and, a copywriter internally, bringing them together with an external team that has a specialty in a certain audience that we're trying to reach, and working as one team, like truly one team. So that's definitely our approach to when we talk about people and skills. It's not necessarily about bringing on new skills. It's about partnering with the right skills.
That's cool. So no throwing briefs and revisions back and forth over the fence.
Listen,
yeah.
I'm not going to revolutionize the way.
Sure.
Well, maybe you are trying to revolutionize the way. I think we're not going to break a model that has been well established for years, but I think we are looking at how to fill competency gaps, and also, the value that in-house agencies have, right? Certainly from our perspective, is the brand stewardship, right? There's no one that knows the brand better than the people that work within Lego. But at the same time, there are challenges and attrition that happens with new ideas and creative thinking. And I think both our internal teams are energized by working with external teams that push us to feel uncomfortable in a good way, and bring out ideas that probably we would have never been able to bring out ourselves, not through lack of trying, but just through their unique skill set.
Interesting. Yeah, the independent third party or is sometimes a benefit to have in the room. Like, of course, the brand DNA is crucial. Like you said, the stewardship. No agency is going to wear the brand on their sleeve and know it up, down, and sideways. But sometimes you want a perspective that doesn't include those blinders, so to speak, or that view, right, of a singular brand.
Yes. Yep.
Cool. I think another thing that I was wondering, that I'm sure, many others are wondering as well, is, this idea of formats and channels, and, what's top of mind. Now, that could be literally a channel such as Instagram Live versus email or something, but also the mix of brand versus product driven promotions, or where you even draw the line, and draw that strategic distinction between the two.
Yep. I mean, I think I always talk about, we like all brands, I would argue, fall on the money, right? And the marketing money or marketing budgets are allocated for the most part at a product level, right? So there, that, for better for worse, does inform the creative output. I think we are trying to shift that model a little bit. And I always say, I always like him, look at Lego's Instagram handle, for example. A large majority of the content that lives there is product driven. Now, it doesn't take a genius to figure out why, right? Our primary objective is to drive sales, and that is what informs a lot of our creative briefs, a lot of our marketing briefs, and that is what informs a lot of our media dollars. But at the same time, we know from research, audience insights, and our data that what we call the red square, the brand, Lego, is what a lot of people value almost equally as the product. And we need to do a better job and a bigger job of marketing the brand over the product, right? And that's what you'll start seeing with our, first ever brand campaign, Rebuild the World, that launched, I can't remember, is it 2 years ago now or a year? Who knows what happened last year? And that is very much brand focused and very much celebrating the red square, the Lego brand, and much less so about a specific product. It, as we always say internally, right, it does come down to the brick. That is the core value proposition of the brick, that you build and rebuild and reimagine, and that is involved in every single product. It's not just a unique product, unique to a single product, for example.
Very interesting. What's the last now 15, 16, whatever, however long it's been since COVID-19 been like for you all? Because I know that any consumer product looks like just how audiences consume it changed dramatically, and a lot of brands for the better, right? Or a lot of people had time on their hands or were ordering things online. But for your brand, and certainly curious about, the sales and engagement, but even your own team, like an in-house agency having to go home, and work remotely overnight. What was that like?
What was that like? Yeah, I mean, I think PTSD, or we're still in it. Listen, I think we were very, very lucky for a number of reasons. I will say that our boss, certainly in the Americas, wanted to brought and forced us into Microsoft Teams about, I would say, 3 weeks before the pandemic hit. So we had everything from a tech standpoint all set up. So we were ready and raring to go, which was a very lucky thing, to be honest. I will say from a business standpoint, we were, very interested about, how things are going to happen. Obviously, from a supply chain standpoint, beginning of last year, as our factory in Mexico closed down, we had some real unique challenges. I think we were also extremely humbled in the same way that I think I like using the stat that the puzzle industry was. I think the largest puzzle manufacturer was up over 400%. We didn't see quite that rise, but we did. We were, uniquely positioned as a, engagement opportunity as a product, right? Outside of, Netflix and a non-digital one, which I think, again, similar to the puzzle industry, they probably saw. But we had unique challenges, right, in terms of, and humbling ones, I will say, where, towards the end of the year, we were getting briefs that were focused on engagement only and no conversion messaging. And I think that was a really interesting strategy and a really interesting approach. We started off in July as stay-at-home orders rolled out with a campaign that was engagement focused. Let's build together, and it was all about providing everyone that was stuck at home an opportunity and tools to engage with their existing Lego products, in new and fun ways. We felt we had a responsibility to keep everyone, adults, parents, kids, engaged and entertained. So it was a lot about repurposing content. There was honestly not a lot of original content production, given that all our production partners were remote, but it was all about repurposing pre-existing assets in a new, exciting, different way, whether it was on Pinterest or whether it was through Twitter. That was a sort of a strategic tempo. So that's sort of where we pivoted, and successfully so. It's definitely worked out for us, but we are continually humbled by that as well.
That's awesome. You said that Lego is a non-digital way to engage, which obviously you sort of build it with your hands, but I do know that there are a lot of investments in digital.
Yes.
And, I imagine your team to an extent has to support the activation of that and the sort of look and feel and everything else, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I think, even if a pure digital brand expression will still be, have a foundation in the brick.
Yeah.
Right. Look at, any Lego movie or Lego entertainment property, not only are their products for the obvious reason, but, it is principled on the
Right.
the physical brick.
Yeah.
And that is really, really important, right? I will talk ad nauseum about the philosophical challenges we had with building digital building instructions, for example, right? And what that said philosophically to a consumer that understands us as a tangible physical brick. But I think that will always be at the core of what we do, and the core of how we communicate is the physical building experience.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, that might be a session for another time, but you'd have me in the audience. That's cool.
Yeah.
I was curious also about, so you said you didn't have to do much original creation of content or of assets during these specific initiatives during the pandemic. I heard that a lot too, is that reuse became paramount because literally you couldn't go on site or you couldn't get people to do a photo shoot or something. What does that process look like? Because I've heard a lot from different customers that are manufacturers of physical products where they can expedite the process of getting things to market from prototype into final product view and then into the marketing assets. Whereas before they would have to do, a physical photo shoot in every single region or, across 15 different agencies or something like that. So curious how you all think about that looking into the future.
What, from a content production standpoint in the future?
Production, whether it's a photo shoot or taking, the mock-ups and prototypes as they get into more real, physical form.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think we'll get a little philosophical for a second. I am
By all means.
all for I am all for the values of remote working and the benefits that has, especially to say an introverted workforce, for example, that I think a lot of or at least some creatives definitely are. I think the one thing that remote working has impacted is creative ideation, right? And the idea of being in a room together, and what that can come from, right? I will always say that the best creative ideas for me in my old agency days were at a bar on 3rd Avenue in my old days when I used to work at various agencies. So, that obviously doesn't happen and is hard to have happen in these days. I think from a production standpoint as well, yeah, I mean, no one's gonna say that it was easier to produce content remotely, but I think it's forced both agility and focus, which is never a bad thing from creative output. On the flip side of that, we, for a campaign like Let's Build Together, which was at the beginning of the pandemic last year, I think it really proved the value of, and I know this is something that my other in-house agency friends feel, that the marketers need and desire to create a new asset, which is a regular need, is maybe not all that important, right? And I say that because the entire content output from Let's Build Together, not the entire, that's wrong. About 80% of our content output from Let's Build Together was repurposing existing assets or assets that didn't need any real production. And by that, it was, live content distributed on social. But it also, it also proves the value of a single distribution method, in social. And it's nothing like watching a very large, honestly, matrix organization come together towards a singular brand campaign and a singular objective on a singular channel. Lovely concept.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Single distribution method. Now, do you mean, can you expand on that? Do you mean like more how Lego goes about it, or the actual channel itself, like once it's live?
The actual channel.
Okay.
Yeah, the actual channel itself, right? It was all of our output was on social. There was no TV, there was no other media.
I see. But in terms of Lego itself, curious, the journey of bringing more in-house or doing more in-house. I have to imagine there's a cultural aspect, or that the company needs to function a certain way. And again, no company is perfect, but I imagine it wouldn't work if there were a lot of like regional or departmental silos, I would say.
Correct. Yeah. And I think, we are seeing ourselves, in this sort of lead agency model, whether it's with our media agency or whether it's with our PR agency. That's what we aspire to deliver. My boss starts every slide presentation with a picture of an orchestra and someone conducting said orchestra, and we want to be the conductor of that orchestra. And that's not from an ownership or oversight standpoint. That is from a bringing all the right parties together in the right ways in which to deliver the best outcome for the stakeholder, whoever that might be.
Gotcha. So the composing of the music can happen from any number of places.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
Cool.
Yep.
Awesome. I would say let's get to some questions here. And I had a couple. I've had many thus far, but I have a couple more for you, James, and then a couple more from the audience. And I would encourage starting now, if you haven't already. I saw a couple come in, but for the audience to start submitting questions, and then I'll read them off as they come in. I think, well, when we say in-house agency or that creative is done in-house, there is like when I first heard of this trend, the mind kind of goes to like, oh, they must not work with agencies, which is obviously the farthest things from the truth. So it's if anything else, it's just a changing the relationship, right? An evolving relationship with different agencies for different things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's very true. Yeah, I mean, our various stakeholders work with a handful of agencies for a variety of things. It's not, I think the world of, at least our world of in-house agency is not to be the deliverer of and the maker of all things. I think it's much the opposite. It is, driving efficiency and being sure that we are providing, adding value and creative oversight from a brand stewardship standpoint across all creative output. I think if you were to really, really drill down to what our objective is on a Post-it, is what I like to try and talk about, is we are responsible for all of the creative output, say specifically for us, for the Americas, right? That doesn't mean that we create it all. We absolutely don't create it all. We need a team of thousands to do so. It's about making sure that we are acting as the creative brand stewards for all output.
Got it. Another question for you, and that really helps, at least myself, because having creative in-house could mean anything, right? So it's really cool to define it and to kind of clear that up. Question for you. So our customers that are in like more of the food and beverage and hospitality or retail, they are doing a ton now of employer branding because they're rehiring, right? Like physical locations are coming back. Consumer appetites are coming back. I don't know if that's the same at Lego, given it's more of a manufacturing and you're not solely relying on retail stores, but does your department ever get employer branding requests, or, what does that look like?
Yeah, we do, and we've we've sort of pivoted on where and what we can help with. Honestly, right, because we can't do everything.
Mm,
I will say we provide strategic guidelines and recommendations for things like employee branding,
yeah.
but we are not doing all of the creative output for that.
Right.
So we are definitely sparring partners from that standpoint, and and the same goes for physical event activation, right, which is less so in the last 2 years, but we used to do a lot of event activation, and it's not something that we have deemed needed for an internal agency,
Right.
but we definitely play, as I said, that conductor model, where we are bringing in the best partners or working with our marketing partners, to bring in the right groups,
Yep.
so that the best possible creative expression in that instance physically can come to life.
Very cool. And how about anything sales related, or like, does Lego have a lot of like field sales, or people that need to sign, agreements with retailers, marketing partners, things like that?
Yeah, we definitely do, and that is a big component of our sort of creative production arm,
Mm,
right? And so we see sort of our organizational structure sort of, and this is a very minimized explanation of it, but split across two, creative production and conceptual,
right.
right? And those need, from what we see, two different types of skills. Obviously, there's account management, there's project management, there's uh, production or producers. But we sort of see that clear delineation between the two, and operations as well. There's clear delineation between conceptual development and creative production. And creative production is that high volume, for the most part, low lift asset need that is required for retail, for sales, for digital media, and partnerships, and then that conceptual development for bigger brand level campaigns, or product level campaigns, or audience level campaigns, that require beginning to end
Yep.
creative, conceptual, and production.
Got it. Very cool. When you say high volume, do you mean like amount of engagement it gets, or more the number of variations and total
Not,
volume of
yeah,
assets? Yep.
yeah, the number of assets,
Yep.
right? So digital banners as an
Sure.
example.
We
Yeah, yeah.
we call it the multiplier effect. Like, it's scary. It's frightening if you ever sit down and jot down your number of markets times number of channels times number of variations times number of formats those channels require, and then you get a pretty hefty multiple pretty quickly.
Yes, definitely true.
Yeah.
A very hefty multiple, right? And we don't want, from that standpoint, right, that hefty multiple, we don't want, not to waste time, because they're important deliverables, but there are far more efficient ways to outsource that sort
Yep.
of tactical need than require an in-house team to deliver on it.
100%. Couple more questions for you, James, and I think we're good
Yeah.
to wrap up, because the questions are still rolling in, which is great. So I encourage people to keep submitting those. First one: how has an ever-changing culture impacted the subject material of Lego products today? When I was growing up, it felt like Lego was Star Wars, Batman, modeling projects after classic movie franchises. Have you found pressure to diversify the material over time towards a wider array of projects?
Absolutely. I think everyone has. I
Yeah.
hope everyone has, and if
Yep.
they haven't, they should. Yes, I think there's definitely a need to diversify. And I would look at it from a standpoint of what you'll see in our product packaging. You'll see a much more explicitly diverse audience and less prescriptive audience. I will say what we are challenged with, obviously, is on the retail side, that isn't always the same, and a certain Lego product might find itself in a certain aisle, versus another Lego product, and that is a much broader discussion that probably needs to happen, certainly over my pay grade, but it is definitely a real challenge that we're in. But I think a focus on this is a good thing, and an evolution on it is needed in production and ongoing.
Awesome. Thanks for that. Next one says, how do you evaluate outside partners? Are you looking for creative talent, experience with similar work, cost? What do outside partners do to stand out?
So I think it depends, right? Obviously, an outside partner can deliver on a number of different things. We're pretty explicit about what we want from, say, an outside partner, right? From a conceptual standpoint, let's say we're going after a certain audience. We want to ensure that we're working with the best agency that is uniquely positioned and has a lot of experience going after our audience. If we're working with a specific retail partner, for example, we're going to pitch a specific retail partner, we want to work with the best in class shopper marketing agency out there that can build up our internal capabilities and bring to life a really, really, really amazing idea. I think from a creative production standpoint, it's a number of things. We're probably looking for global scale. We're probably looking for process and agility.
Got it.
Yep.
One more, and actually this was submitted during the like a couple minutes ago, and but so I think we've covered a little bit of it.
Yeah.
What capabilities are built in-house, i.e. what's needed on every project, or maybe like an itemized view of what capabilities you do have in-house?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I think we have everything from account management to strategy, to creative, to account management, project management, strategy, creative, and creative production. Those are the primary skills or groups or teams that we have. Producers are dotted around within that, and we're probably looking to build out a larger production crew, not to do with things internally, but to work with external. But those are sort of our main buckets.
Awesome. Last question. What was the bar called where you got your inspiration on 3rd Avenue? Or was it several?
I'm pretty sure it was 4th and Long. It's a really bad bar.
Yep. I'm familiar.
Okay. Yes.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah, when we used to do those things.
Right. Well, with that, we'll wrap it up. Thank you so much, James. Really appreciate the conversation. Thank you, everybody.
No worries. Thanks so much, Brian. Thank you. Oh, Marissa, you might be on mute.
My goodness, thank you.
No
I'm
worries.
saying thanks, guys, but I also wanted to mention, James, I really appreciate something that you said around the value of in-house agencies being the true brand stewards, having that oversight overall creative output, driving efficiencies, but that there's a need sometimes to work with other partners, with other agencies to help energize the team, to bring new ideas, new perspectives, and a lot of times execute on those ideas. So those are all things that will make sure that we certainly remember as we're building out our in-house capabilities here at 7-Eleven. So thank you for that. Thank you both for your time.
No worries. Take care.
Thanks so much.
Thanks so much, everybody.
All right. So now we're going to welcome to the stage next Alyssa Heinerscheid, the VP of Direct to Consumer Marketing at Anheuser-Busch InBev. Elisa Alexander, the Senior Director of Digital Strategy at Anheuser-Busch InBev, and Jennifer Brenner, the Head of Client Partnerships at Ampersand.